From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, it's the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. Is Andre Johnson
Jr.
Not forget the Jr. It's very important. Remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, get the bell notification for when we drop that
Fire content.
Also, hello, Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. And also, hope you're enjoying the full lineup of podcasts that we have here on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Networks. We welcome all content, all podcasts onto the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm glad y'all found us here. So thank you for that. All right, Andre, Wednesday, we dressed up. We all dressed looking nice today. We both had to go on set today. You on the Eric Asher show. I had to do some stuff next door for the news today. So we're all dressed up, ready to go, talking about a few things. First off, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. You know, it's a Wednesday, the first Wednesday, at least as of right now, where it hasn't been a torrential downpour. And we got LSU in where we're recording this about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So see how them Tigers can do. Hopefully they win this, advance to the College World Series final, and then we got to worry about them Chanticleers.
Very, very, very strong chance. A lot of y'all, when you see this, the outcome would already been decided. But at the time of this taping, it's LSU Arkansas round 5. If you think about is it 5, 6? Is it the sixth time they faced each other? Wow. Okay.
5, 5, 6.
So,
yeah, it might be 5th.
Okay, We'll see. Just win, baby. All right, so here we go. It is Wednesday, as you mentioned. The actual current Saints have slowed down, but it's a big day for the Saints organization. It's a big day. I have a small piece in this because every year I am a member of the Saints Hall of Fame committee, and every year we induct a new class. And this year that new class has been inducted. We have been under secrecy for the last few months, but that new class has been unveiled. So Andre, would you like to do the honors and read off the new Saints, the 2025 Saints Hall of Fame class?
Of course, you've got, first of all, Brett Maxey, part of arguably if it's even an argument, the greatest Saints defense that we've seen in this franchise. You've got Tracy Porter, the architect of one of the most iconic plays in New Orleans Saints history. Those are the two inductees. They'll be thrown into the Hall of Fame in December. Then Steve Gleason, we all know his name and we know the impact that his play had on this organization. He got the Courage Award. And late WGNO sports director Ed Daniels was given the Joe Giamelli Award. Now, Sean, you mentioned it. You're on the committee for this, every year. So take us inside the process.
Well, there's about 20 of us. There might be maybe a little more, maybe a little less. We get together once a year. And we can nominate. There's a rule. I think it's got to be 3 years post-retirement from the NFL, not 3 years of leaving the Saints. It's 3 years post-retirement from the NFL where you become eligible to be a member of the Saints Hall of Fame. And obviously you have your credentials, and we're all in a room, and we all have the list, and we all basically, one by one, make our pitch for who we feel like should be in the Hall of Fame. Then we do a vote, and then we whittle that vote down. You got to pick at least one. You can do 2, but you can't do any more than 2. And this year was the first year they've ever done the Courage Award for Steve Gleason. So obviously he's very deserving of that award. The Ed Daniels thing, I've known Ed forever. I knew Ed forever. It was a mentor of mine, a great friend of mine. It was an obvious decision to go with he for the Joe Giamelli Award, which is the guy. It's a lot of media guys. There's a lot of people that have worked for the organization. There's a lot of different things. There's former broadcasters, all kinds of things. You can qualify to be the Joe Giamelli Award winner, and obviously Ed covered sports in this decade for 4 decades. So when he covered sports in the city for 4 decades. So when he got the award, that was a no-brainer. Then the debate gets a little stronger or a little more talkative when you talk about, because there's a list of about 15 or 20 names every year. And this year, the vote, there were other names. I'm not going to say who, but there were other names that were up for debate, and it got to the next round of programming. So programming, next round of voting. So it got down to Tracy Porter and obviously Brett Maxey. Brett Maxey is probably the forgotten star of the Dome Patrol. He was the guy. I was right around when I first started watching the World Series. I was a very, very, very young kid, but he was the guy in the backfield. Bobby Aver used to always say, he got everybody lined up. The Dome Patrol got all the accolades, but he got everybody lined up. So Brett Maxey, very deserving. And then, of course, one you probably remember watching so well, Tracy Porter. Tracy Porter, University of Indiana, but from Port Allen. I think they renamed it Porter Allen, if I'm not mistaken, after that. Had the most iconic play in team history with the pick six, but I would argue it was the interception before that, the week before when he picked off Brett Favre. That was even more important. I remember covering Tracy Porter. I remember talking to Tracy Porter. I remember when he first got here, he was a soft-spoken guy. By the end of his time here, he grew up, became a man, and he is well deserving of this honor. Proud to say I voted for him, so I'm very happy that he got into the Saints Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you know, Brett Maxey, unfortunately, a little before my time, you know, just growing up in the city. But Tracy Porter, I don't want to be dramatic, but Tracy Porter had one of the biggest sports plays I've ever seen in my life because as a kid who grew up in New Orleans, and obviously when you grow up in New Orleans, you grow up a Saints fan. So I always joke with you guys, you know, I miss the paper bag days. I was, you know, 11 when Drew Brees came here and Reggie Bush got drafted and this whole franchise turned around overnight, it seems. So that's really when I'm starting to become a football fan, and becoming a football fan here is synonymous with becoming a Saints fan. So, you know, just kind of growing up and seeing the Saints be good and seeing Tracy Porter make that play. I mean, that interception pointing to the end zone. I mean, when you think back, it's almost like everybody remembers where they were and what they were doing during that moment, you know, jumping up and down with my dad and uncle, you know, thinking, you know, it's the first championship I've ever seen, you know, in my lifetime with the Saints or with any team in New Orleans, at least to my memory. So it was just exciting to see, and it's kind of cool full circle now, going from being 11 watching the game, or at that point I was probably 14, 15 watching the game, to now being 30 and covering the team as Tracy Porter goes into the Hall of Fame.
A couple things stand out about the Tracy Porter thing, because I was on the scene I was here. I was very new. I was very young, but obviously not new to this city. I'm from here just like you are. I happened to, when I first started at Fox 8, I also had it was before we were doing all the shows. In fact, matter of fact, the 09 year was the first year we started to really add up on that was the first year of the Fox 8 Live Tailgate, because remember they kept winning and winning and winning and winning, so we just kept doing these shows. And now it's a part of our everyday, you know, every week routine when it comes to black and gold. But I was also Jim Henderson's spotter in the booth, the radio booth. So I remember being in that booth when Jim's making the call. It wasn't the Super Bowl that stood out. It was the NFC Championship game when he does hell is frozen over, pigs have flown, the Saints are going, or, you know, pigs have flown, hell is frozen over, the Saints are on the way to the Super Bowl. I remember hanging on him as he's doing it, because you're supposed to be objective. I was not objective at that point. I was a little kid growing up in New Orleans at that point, and at the time it was the old booth. So it was on the loge level, and it was open air, and there are fans right below us. So at some point, I almost crowd surfed. I was high-fiving everybody as he's saying it, because I mean, when Garrett Hartley hits the field goal and they go to the Super Bowl, it was iconic. And then the play, if you recall that game, it was, if you were in the Dome, you know, there was so much tension because it just felt like a heavyweight fight, and it just felt like, well, we didn't come this far to just get this far. Like, they've got to get over the edge. They've got to get through this NFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl. And no one felt any relief until Tracy Porter picked that ball up, because the Vikings were driving. And it was a 12-minute in the huddle, and then obviously get out of field goal range, and then, you know, Brett Favre goes across his body, and there's Tracy Porter for the INT. And I think even Tracy talked about that. That was more important than the Super Bowl one. But the Super Bowl one was great because it was film study. It was film study. He recognized the formation. They ran it earlier in the game. He winked over at Malcolm Jenkins, and he said, I'm just going to go for this. I'm just going to get it. And if they beat me with a double move, they beat me with a double move. He guessed right, got it right. Lo and behold, the Saints win the Lombardi Trophy. So that's the memory I have of that. And it's special memories for me because it was right when I first started to get on the scene here in TV. And obviously growing up here, you have that connection to the Saints. And the fact that it was a local guy, to me, just put the exclamation point on the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember about a year ago, I was surfing channels on TV and I got to NFL Network, and the Saints-Vikings game from that year was on. And I'm watching it as an adult, and I'm like, the Saints probably shouldn't have won this game. There's so many things.
If you rewatch that game, the Saints were outplayed in that game.
They were. So many things had to go right for the Saints to win that game, and Tracy Porter making the interception, the one that to him is even more important than the most iconic moment in Saints history. Like, that speaks volumes to how big that moment in that game, the way it was going was. And like you said, he grew up in the city as well. I talked about, really getting to become a football fan and a Saints fan in '06. He was in college in '06, and he talked about that after his induction, just being a kid from New Orleans and watching them in '06. He says he feels like, as a fan, he thinks they should have won it in '06, the year they went to Chicago and they lost that
That was the year
Chicago.
that was the year, because they were way ahead of schedule that year.
Yeah.
And they probably had no business being an NFC Championship game that year, but they still came very, very close to the Super Bowl. Think back to that NFC Championship game here against the Vikings. I think Adrian Peterson had 2 fumbles inside the 10. Like, it was like the Saints were outplayed in that game. Go look at Drew's stats. Drew was a little jumpy to start that game. He was not the same. Like, obviously, he settled into the game, but it really wasn't until second quarter of that game where they kind of leveled things off and got themselves back into the mix and were able to finish it off. But you talk about tension. I mean, there was just tension after tension because you're so close to what you want.
Yep.
And the Super Bowl, in a way, you would have hated to lose the Super Bowl. Glad they won the Super Bowl. The fact that they got there, to me, was what the Saints wanted. The Saints fans wanted to say they got to a Super Bowl. And obviously Tracy Porter played a big role in getting there, and obviously winning the Super Bowl kind of put the exclamation point on the entire experience with the pick 6. He was selected today. He spoke today. Let's listen into what Tracy Porter had to say about now being in black and gold immortality.
First, man, I just want to say thank you to everyone that had a hand in allowing me to be at this podium in front of you today. Much like Brett, man, it's a bit overwhelming. I mean, and you can wonder how that is with playing in front of 70+ thousand every week, but to be recognized by your peers and men and women that you see every single day, and they think the highest of you, you can't put a value on that. So for everyone, like I said, that had a hand in getting me to this point, thank you. I really appreciate it. But I must say, though, that if you would have told me when I was a young kid that I would be at this point, I wouldn't have believed you, because football was not my first love, believe it or not. I actually had dreams of playing basketball. But as you can see, being vertically challenged, you had to find another avenue. But like I said, God had other things for me. He put me on the football field. It's becoming more and more common now, but at the time, playing 2 years of high school football and then trying to get a scholarship to go play in college and then make it to this point was rare and kind of unheard of. But it was a transition that I made, and through the help of the vets and the coaches along the way, and Mickey and Coach Payton, them guys, and Dennis Allen, they taking a chance on me and bringing me back home. It speaks volumes. So I'm very appreciative of that, of you guys giving me my opportunity. And in saying that, I have to tell a little draft story, if you guys don't mind. But once the draft was going on, I remember sitting at home with my mom. She was in the room. My girlfriend, who was my wife at the time, Devin, she was sitting beside us, and the first round went by, and like every player that enters the draft, they're hopeful of the first round, but there are only 32 picks. So those picks went by, and the second round came, and I just happened to be, I guess said I'd just go ahead and take a nap, so to speak. And I remember hearing the 40th pick come up, and it happened to be the Saints. So I'm laying there, and I'm kind of like, I should have went first round, so that didn't happen. But once I seen the 504 number pop up on the phone, I had to look at the screen again, and I'm just, simply telling myself, like, this can't be happening right now. So I answered the phone. Lo and behold, Mickey's on the phone, Coach Payton's on the phone. They're asking me, am I ready to come to New Orleans and play some football? And I'm pretty much saying, well, yeah, coach, it's about time. So, I mean, like I said, that was a moment. It would have been easy for me to say, hey, Mom, hey, Devin, I'm getting drafted, but I wanted her to enjoy the full experience. So my mom, she was just sitting there watching the TV. She saw the pick, and I was trying to whisper on the phone and not allow her to hear me, but she was, still just looking at the TV. And then once the pick came in and she saw my name go across the screen, you would have thought that she got drafted. Because she started to cry. I went outside. We lived in an apartment complex, so I went outside, and it's like the whole entire neighborhood came in front of our building. So I was in my small town of Port Allen. Mickey, you know a little something about that, but the town is so small, and everyone, they stick together, they know each other, so the support that they had a hand in getting me to this point as well. So I definitely have to shout out, my hometown of Port Allen. But in getting here, and getting to this point, and coming into the facility, I was young. I didn't know the ins and outs, so I had to follow the veteran leadership. And I had a good group of guys from Vilma, who was man in the middle of our defense, to Drew on the other side of the ball. He would come in and help me as well. So I don't want to leave anybody out, but I know it's a lot of people that played a hand in me getting to this point. And I want to simply just say thank you. Much like Brett, my wife is the glue as well. She's been here from the beginning, since I was in college up until this point. I have my 16-year-old, Samari. She was the 1-year-old when we ended up winning the whole thing. Like I said, man, just being here puts a smile on my face. Once I got the call from Ken, it wasn't expected. I thought you were just calling to shoot the breeze, but once you dropped the news on me, much like getting drafted on that phone call, man, I thought it was too good to be true. But, I started to get more calls, and people, they were congratulating me as well. And I wanted to announce it, but they said, hold on, man, you had to wait until June. So, I had to tell my mom. She's not on social media, so I don't have to worry about her. But I told a lot of close friends and family. And, hey, man, I mean, this is a huge opportunity. This is a great thing that you guys do for us. We need more of this, of, guys coming back, the veteran guys coming back and being a presence for the younger guys that are coming in. To show these guys, what it takes to become a pro, because I had to learn that. It wasn't all peaches and creams here. Mickey, we know everybody, players, the young players, they have their ups and downs, but to know that Mickey and the rest of the Saints organization, they stuck behind me, that spoke volumes. I mean, I'm homegrown. I let anybody know from day one that we have the greatest fan base of all 32 teams. No one is touching us, hands down. Man, it's a lot I want to say. I know I don't have much time, but coming into that NFC Championship game, we had one thing on our minds. We lost the last 3 games of the season, and you hear all the whispers of everyone saying, hey, no one has won 13 straight, lose their last 3, and go on to win the Super Bowl, let alone go to the Super Bowl. Well, so much for that. But the NFC Championship game, man, we're playing. It's a hard-fought battle going back and forth. We're forcing turnovers. Those guys are keeping the game close. And I remember just before the interception happened, we were in the huddle. We're calling the play. We're looking up, and, some of the fans they're starting to leave because time is out. They think they're going to come in and kick a field goal, and then the Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl. But lo and behold, not Peyton. I'm getting ahead of myself. Brett, he tries to throw across his body. The rest is history. And after that, I remember hearing that everyone that left the dome was trying to turn around and come back in once we were going to overtime. So it was just a great experience playing here week in and week out, man. The way the fans turned out, The way the support from the family, from the team, from you guys in the Who Dat Nation, man, it was unbelievable. I'm very appreciative. I know I probably left some people out, had some things that I should have said that I didn't say, but it's just being here, being in front of you guys, man, it's unbelievable. Bit overwhelming, but I can't do anything but smile and tell everyone in here and everyone that had a hand again in having me get to this point. I just want to tell you guys thank you, and God bless you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, so that's Tracy Porter. You know, when they detach a little bit and they have a chance to really look back on it, I've always appreciated their perspective because they appreciate the perspective because you're grinding so hard and there's such a, it's such a grind to it. It's not always easy to appreciate those moments, but when you talk to them later, hey, they're a lot happier to see us because we're media people. Although I think media-wise, Tracy got along with all of us. I certainly never had any issues with him. I don't think he had any issues with anybody else. And then they talk with pride, they talk with fond memories, and they're so eager to talk to all of us about it because he's been out of the spotlight for quite some time now, and he gets a little bit of chance to get back in it, and you can tell just how much it means to these players because look, it's great to be a part of history for an organization, in particular one you grew up rooting for and hoping to play for one day. He got to live every Saints fan's dream in Tracy Porter. So I thought it was a job well done today by him.
Yeah, I mean, he talked kind of after about it being a full circle moment. And when you really think back, I mean, he mentioned being a college student, watching the 06 season and thinking, oh, we should have been in the Super Bowl against fellow New Orleans kid, Peyton Manning. That's who they would have played if they made it in 06. It would have been the Colts. And then he gets drafted to the Saints and he works his way into the starting lineup. He makes the biggest play of his career in the NFC Championship game to then lock up, once again, a chance to go to the Super Bowl against New Orleans kid, Peyton Manning, and then New Orleans boy picks off New Orleans boy, throwing to New Orleans boy. Because Reggie Wayne was the target. So just a lot of local ties to that one play, a lot of local ties to that entire game, really. So Tracy Porter, full circle moment, a special moment. And it was just cool listening to him talk about it because it was like, he was all smiles. You could tell he's genuinely happy. He talked about, how blessed he was for the organization to have given him his first shot at the NFL, and now, all these years later, he's inducted into, immortality in this organization.
And, he didn't start that week off very well. If you remember, he was one of the ones that got caught. He missed curfew, or they went out one night. It was the one night they could go out. And he missed the bus the next day. We were all there for media day. They rearranged the entire media day schedule because Sean Payton had to have an emergency meeting with his guys because 5 or 6 guys were late. That's when I think even our guy Jermon was one of them. I think Tracy was the last one to show up. Could you imagine waking up on Super Bowl week knowing you missed the bus? You had to take a cab or whatever it was over there to get in. And it was one of those crisis intervention moments. And that's when Peyton ripped into him saying, you guys are just happy to be here. Eureka Vitina just wants to be here and just have a good time and not win. And that was kind of the turning point in that week. So Tracy Porter really redeemed himself. And look, it's funny because at that time, like I said, I was the new guy here. So when they sent all of us over there, when they sent all of us, I wouldn't cover the Colts that week. And I remember talking to Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was so conflicted about playing the Saints in the Super Bowl because he grew up, his favorite player was Eric Martin growing up, the late 80s, early 90s, Bobby Abear's favorite target. I remember talking to him and almost feeling the sadness in his voice that, does it have to be the Saints? Like, he wants to win a ring, but he also knows it's the Saints. I know how much it means to New Orleans. And he was he was directly involved in the play because he ran the route. That was the pass intended to him. But Tracy Porter read it perfectly and pick six it. Some of those things stick out to me. And I just remember talking to Reggie Wayne about it because at that time he was trying to do some kind of thing on the West Bank, some kind of complex he wanted to build. It was like a putt-putt thing or something. I don't know if it ever got built, bowling alley or something. I remember him being so, like, almost like, I hope they can forgive me if we beat them. I mean, but that's how it is when it comes to people that grow up here and pull for the Saints. And when you're an NFL player like Reggie Wayne that didn't get to play for the Saints but still pull for them, it had to have been tough. And I remember sensing that, and lo and behold, the pivotal play in that game, he was the guy the pass was intended to.
And do you remember, obviously you were at the game, what that moment was like when Tracy Porter jumps in front of that pass and takes it to the house and points to the end zone?
It was euphoric. I mean, it was just, when it happened, it's just everybody could finally let loose, because that was another battle as well.
Yeah.
Saints were down 10-0. Second quarter, they closed it out with a field goal to make it, I think, 10-6. And then they got the ball back. Well, they did the onside kick. I mean, that was a 3-act play. I mean, that was a lot of storylines, a lot of twists and turns, and they were finally able to take the lead with I think it was a Jeremy Shockey touchdown catch, and then Lance Moore with the overturned 2-point conversion. But it was still Peyton Manning with the ball in his hands up in the Saints were, 24-17, and pick six. I think it was less than 3 minutes left after that. So after that, everyone kind of knew and exhaled. It was one of those where moments where I'm just so glad I'm here, present, witnessing history, and I can only imagine what it's like in New Orleans right now.
Literally history. I mean, the first in franchise history so far, the only in franchise history. You had a lot of Saints fans that would give whatever to give back to.
Where did you watch the game? At the house?
I was at my grandma's house upstairs with my dad and his brothers, so my uncles and everything, just huddled around the TV, and I just remember the whole room exploding. And by the way, you guys watching, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment.
Yeah.
Let us know where you were, what you were doing, what you remember from that iconic Super Bowl and Tracy Porter making the interception and taking it to the house.
Fun times, man.
It was something.
Fun times. It'll happen again someday. Hopefully we're allowed to see it.
Yeah, right. Hopefully sooner than later.
All right, how much time we got left?
About 15 seconds.
About 15 seconds, 20 seconds or so. All right, yeah, leave us your comments. Let us know what's happening. Let us know your thoughts. I think it were two very worthy inductees, plus congratulations, Steve Gleason and the late, great Ed Daniels. For Andre Johnson Jr., I'm Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.